The wolf's snarl ripped through the courtyard like thunder, sending 3 guards stumbling backward. Blood already stained the cobblestones where the last fool had tried to slip a chain around its neck. "Nobody move," Commander Aldrich barked, his hand pressed against his shredded sleeve. "Send for the Alpha King. Tell him his wolf has gone mad again." I pressed myself deeper into the shadows of the servants' alcove, my basket of healing herbs clutched against my chest. "Just pass through," I told myself. "Stay invisible. You're nobody." Just the healer's apprentice who shouldn't even be in the inner courtyard. The massive wolf, Fenris they called him, stood in the center of the space, his silver coat gleaming like liquid moonlight despite the blood matting his shoulder. His eyes burned amber gold, wild with rage and something else. Pain, perhaps, or memory. "Fetch the iron poles," someone shouted. "We'll pin him against the wall." "You'll lose your arm trying," another guard muttered. I should have left. Every instinct screamed at me to slip away before anyone noticed I'd witnessed the Alpha King's wolf refusing his handlers again. But then Fenris turned, and our eyes met across the chaos. The world stopped. Those amber eyes held mine, and beneath the fury I saw something unthinkable. Recognition. But I'd never been this close to the Alpha King's companion before. I was nothing. Nobody. Just an apprentice who gathered herbs and mixed poultices. Fenris took a step toward me. "Don't move, girl!" Commander Aldrich shouted. "He'll tear you apart." My body wouldn't obey anyway. I stood frozen as the enormous wolf approached, his head lowered, muscles coiled like springs. The guards raised their weapons. "Please," I whispered, the word escaping without thought. "You're hurt." Fenris stopped mid-stride, his ears swiveled forward, focused entirely on me. "Let me see," I heard myself say, my voice somehow steady despite my racing heart. "I can help." What happened next sent gasps through the courtyard. The wolf that had just savaged 3 trained guards, that hadn't let anyone touch him in the 2 years since he'd appeared at the palace, slowly lowered himself to the ground. Not in threat, in submission. He laid his massive head on his paws, eyes never leaving mine, and waited. The silence stretched so thick I could hear my own heartbeat. Then footsteps, powerful, deliberate, echoed from the palace entrance. "What is the meaning of—" The Alpha King's voice died as he took in the scene, his untouchable wolf prostrate before a nobody healer's apprentice. And when his ice-blue eyes found mine, I knew my invisible life had just ended. "Step away from him." The Alpha King's voice carried the weight of absolute command, yet I couldn't move. Fenris hadn't broken eye contact, and something in those amber depths held me captive. "My lord," Commander Aldrich stammered. "The girl." She spoke, and he just— "I can see what happened." King Kalen stepped into the courtyard, and the very air seemed to bend around him. Where his twin brother King Theron ruled the eastern territories with cruel efficiency, Kalen commanded the northern realm with cold precision. Tall, dark-haired, with features carved from winter itself, he was everything the stories claimed, beautiful and terrible as a storm. "What are you?" His question sliced through the air. "No one, Your Majesty," I managed, finally finding my voice. "Just an apprentice. I gather herbs for Healer Mirin." "No one doesn't tame Fenris." He moved closer, and I caught his scent, pine and iron and something wild beneath the royal exterior. "He's killed 6 men who tried to touch him. He won't even accept food from anyone but me. Not since he appeared 2 years ago." Fenris chose that moment to shift, pressing his injured shoulder toward me with a soft whine. "He's hurt," I said, surprising myself with my boldness. There's poison in the wound. Thornweed, if I'm not mistaken. It won't kill him, but it burns like acid. The king's eyes narrowed. You can tell that from here? I couldn't explain that I'd always been able to sense poison, feel injury like a shadow on my skin. That was the secret that had driven me from my village, the gift that marked me as either blessed or cursed, depending on who you asked. I can smell it, I lied. Then heal him. Your Majesty, Aldrich protested, if she fails, she won't. The king's certainty sent ice down my spine. Will you, little healer? Swallowing hard, I knelt beside Fenris. The wolf's breath stirred my dark hair as I examined the wound. 3 deep gashes, deliberate and precise. These weren't battle wounds. Who did this to you? I whispered, my fingers hovering over the torn flesh. Fenris's growl rumbled through the courtyard, but not at me. His eyes fixed on something beyond the palace walls. Or someone. I worked quickly, pulling herbs from my basket. Moonbell for the poison, silverleaf for healing, crushed with ashwood bark to prevent infection. My hands moved without thought, guided by instinct older than memory. Where did you learn that technique? The king's voice came from directly behind me. I don't know. It just feels right. As I pressed the poultice to Fenris's wounds, the wolf shuddered. Then, beyond all reason, the angry red inflammation began to fade. Within moments, the gashes started closing. Gasps echoed around us. Even the king stepped back. That's not possible, someone whispered. Not even the palace healers can work that fast. Fenris rose, shaking his coat. Then he did something that sent murmurs through the gathered crowd. He pressed his massive head against my shoulder in unmistakable affection. You're coming with me, the king declared. My heart stopped. Your Majesty, I have duties. Your duty is whatever I say it is. His eyes held mine, and I glimpsed something beneath the cold exterior. Curiosity, calculation, and something else that made my pulse race. Fenris hasn't accepted anyone since... He cut himself off sharply. Since what? Pack your things. You'll have quarters in the palace tower. But I'm nobody. No, he said, studying me with an intensity that made me want to run. You're something else entirely, and I intend to find out what. As guards scrambled to escort me away, I caught a reflection in a palace window. For just a moment, my brown eyes seemed to flash gold, the same shade as Fenris's. But that was unthinkable, wasn't it? Behind us, in the shadow of the eastern gate, a figure watched our departure with interest. The message would reach King Theron by nightfall. His brother's untouchable wolf had finally found someone it would protect. And wars had been started over less. The tower room they gave me was larger than my entire childhood home. Moonlight streamed through windows that faced the thornwood forest, and I couldn't shake the feeling that placing me here was deliberate, a cage with a view of freedom. You'll need proper clothing. The voice startled me. An elegant woman stood in my doorway, her silver hair crowned with a circlet of black stones. I'm Morwen, the king's advisor, also his aunt, though he'd prefer you forget that familial connection. She circled me like Fenris might circle prey, her violet eyes missing nothing. Village girl, herb knowledge, no formal training. Yet you did in minutes what our healers couldn't do in 2 years. She paused, curious. I've always been good with animals. Fenris isn't just an animal. Morwen's smile was sharp as winter ice. Surely you've figured that out. Before I could respond, a long howl echoed through the night. My skin prickled with recognition. Fenris. He's calling for you, Morwen observed. He's never called for anyone, not even Kaelin. Why doesn't the king just let him go, if he's so difficult? Let him go? Morwen laughed, the sound like breaking glass. Child, Fenris isn't a pet. He's a guardian, a protector bound by magic older than this kingdom. And apparently, he's decided you're what needs protecting. Another howl, more insistent. My feet moved without permission, carrying me toward the door. The king won't like you wandering at night, Morwen warned. Then the king should control his wolf better. I found Fenris in the courtyard where we'd first met, but he wasn't alone. King Kaelin stood beside him, speaking in low tones. They both turned as I approached, and the similarity in their predatory focus made my breath catch. He won't rest, the king said. He's been pacing since you left. Maybe he senses something's wrong. Is something wrong? The question held weight I didn't understand. Above us, clouds shifted, revealing the full moon. In that silver light, I saw something beyond comprehension. For just a heartbeat, Fenris's shadow didn't match his form. It was larger, human-shaped. You see it, Kaelin said softly. It wasn't a question. I don't understand. Most can't. Most see only what their minds allow. He moved closer, and Fenris positioned himself between us, not threatening, but protective. Of me. Your Majesty, I said carefully, what is Fenris? Really? He studied me for a long moment. You truly don't know, do you? Don't know what you are? I'm a healer's apprentice. You're a speaker. The word fell between us like a stone into still water. There hasn't been one in 3 generations. They thought the bloodline died out. I don't know what that means. It means, a new voice cut through the night, that my brother has been hiding something valuable. King Theron emerged from the shadows, a mirror image of Kaelin but wrong somehow. Where Kaelin was winter, Theron was rot. Where Kaelin's eyes were ice, Theron's were void. Fenris's snarl could have shattered stone. Control your beast, brother, Theron said smoothly. I'm here under treaty. The treaty doesn't allow night visits, Kaelin replied, his hand moving to his sword. It does when property is in question. Theron's smile made my skin crawl. The girl belongs to the eastern villages, my villages, which makes her mine. Something flickered in his eyes. Not just cruelty, but something almost like fear, gone before I could be certain. I belong to no one, I said. Theron's laugh was poison. Brave little speaker, but you bear the mark, don't you? Show them your wrist. Ice flooded my veins, the birthmark I'd hidden all my life, the one that looked like a wolf's eye. That's what I thought, Theron said as I clutched my wrist. The last speaker was my grandmother's property. The bloodline belongs to the east. You're coming home, little wolf whisperer. Fenris moved so fast I barely saw it. Suddenly he stood over Theron, who lay sprawled on the cobblestones, the wolf's teeth inches from his throat. And in that moment of perfect stillness, I heard it. Fenris's voice in my mind, clear as crystal. Not her, never her. I'll kill you first. Call him off, Theron wheezed, but his eyes glittered with triumph rather than fear. Or I'll have every eastern soldier at your gates by dawn. Fenris, I said softly. The wolf's muscles trembled with restraint, his teeth still bared above Theron's throat. Please. Slowly, reluctantly, Fenris stepped back. But he positioned himself firmly between Theron and me, his meaning clear. Theron rose, brushing dirt from his black coat with deliberate calm. Interesting. The beast responds to her over you, brother. That must sting. State your business and leave. Kaelin's voice could have frozen flame. I've already stated it. The girl bears the speaker's mark. By ancient law? Ancient law also states a speaker chooses their own path once awakened. Morwen interrupted, appearing like smoke beside us. Has she been awakened, Theron? The Eastern King's jaw clenched. She spoke to the wolf. That's communication, not awakening. Don't twist the old words. Morwen turned to me. Show me your wrist, child. Reluctantly, I extended my arm. The birthmark I'd hidden since childhood seemed to pulse in the moonlight. A perfect wolf's eye in deep purple against my pale skin. Dormant, Morwen announced. The essence sleeps. Until it wakes, she's under no obligation to anyone. Then I'll wake it, Theron said. You wouldn't dare. Kaelin stepped forward, frost literally forming beneath his boots. The awakening ritual requires consent or crisis. Theron's smile was vicious. If she won't consent, I'm happy to provide the crisis. Fenris lunged again, but this time Theron was ready. He spoke a word in a language that scraped against reality, and Fenris froze mid-leap, suspended in the air like a grotesque sculpture. No! The word tore from my throat with physical force. Energy I didn't know I possessed erupted outward, shattering Theron's hold. Fenris crashed to the ground, immediately recovering and placing himself protectively before me. But something had changed. I could feel it. A door in my mind had cracked open, and through it whispered voices I couldn't quite understand. There, Theron said with satisfaction, crisis provided. She's awakening. The world tilted. Colors became too bright, sounds too sharp. I could hear every heartbeat in the courtyard, feel every living thing within 100 yards. And beneath it all, Fenris's presence blazed like a bonfire in my consciousness. But there was something else, another presence, wrapped around Fenris's essence like chains. Something that felt like, you bound him, I gasped, staring at Kaelin in horror. Fenris isn't your companion, he's your prisoner. Kaelin's face went pale. You don't understand. I understand enough. Energy coursed through me, wild and uncontrolled. Release him. I can't. The admission seemed to physically pain him. The binding. If I break it without the proper ritual, it will kill us both. Us? I looked between him and Fenris, and suddenly the truth hit me like ice water. You're connected. I couldn't finish the thought. It was too unthinkable. Brothers? Theron supplied helpfully. Didn't you wonder why they look so similar? Why Fenris appeared exactly 2 years ago, the same night Kaelin's youngest brother Riven disappeared. Riven, Morwen whispered. You found him. I saved him, Kaelin snarled. You cursed him, Theron countered. Your own brother, transformed into a beast because he discovered your secret. What secret? I demanded. But even as I asked, the awakening energy in me provided the answer. Images flooded my mind. Kaelin meeting with shadows in the deep forest, bargaining with creatures that shouldn't exist, gaining his throne through dark pacts. The price of power, I breathed. You traded your brother's humanity for the throne. To stop Theron from taking both kingdoms. Kaelin's control finally shattered. Riven was dying, poisoned by our dear brother's assassins. The forest spirits offered a choice. Let him die, or bind him as his guardian to the crown. I chose to save him. You chose to enslave him, I said, my newfound strength singing with rage. Fenris, Riven, pressed against my side, and through our connection, I felt the truth. The binding was killing him slowly, trapping his human consciousness deeper each day. Soon, there would be only the wolf. But now you're here, Theron said, circling us like a vulture. A speaker can break any binding, remake any curse. The question is, Will you free the wolf and lose the man forever? Or maintain the binding and watch him fade away slowly? There's a third option, Morwen said quietly, but it would require something from you, Lyrian. Something you might not survive. Above us, storm clouds gathered without warning, responding to my emotional turmoil. Thunder rumbled, and in the distance something howled. Not a wolf, but something older, angrier, answering my awakening call. Choose quickly, Theron warned, backing toward the gates. Because what you've awakened tonight, it's calling to things that have slept since the last speaker died. And trust me, little wolf whisperer, they're coming. Lightning split the sky, illuminating a sight that made everyone freeze. The thornwood forest was moving. The trees themselves were walking, advancing on the palace. And leading them was a figure I recognized from childhood nightmares. The Shadow Wolf. The first of all shifters. The one even death couldn't claim. He'd come for his descendant. He'd come for Fenris. The Shadow Wolf stood at the forest's edge, neither fully solid nor completely spirit. His form shifted between substance and smoke, primordial eyes burning with colors that had no names. The walking trees halted behind him, their branches creaking in anticipation. Grandfather, Kaelin breathed, and I realized with shock that he was trembling. You dare invoke that title? The Shadow Wolf's voice was the sound of wind through graveyards. You who bound your own brother with chains of magic? Fenris, riven, whined softly, pressing closer to me. Through our newfound connection, I felt his conflict, joy at seeing his ancestor, shame at his imprisoned state, and something else. Fear for me. He'll take you, Riven's voice whispered in my mind. Speakers are precious to the old ones. He'll claim you for the Shadow Realm. I claim no one, the Shadow Wolf said, his attention shifting to me. Unlike my corrupted grandsons, I understand consent. He moved closer, and the temperature dropped 20 degrees. Where his paws touched the ground, frost spiraled outward in patterns defying nature. But you, little speaker, you interest me. The last of your kind died screaming, betrayed by those she trusted. Will you share her fate? Not if I can help it, I said, surprised by my own steadiness. The primeval being laughed, a sound like breaking bones. Brave. Your predecessor said the same. His form solidified slightly, revealing features both wolf and man, beautiful and terrible. Tell me, young speaker, what price would you pay to free my grandson? Don't, Kaelin warned. You don't know what you're negotiating. I know Riven is dying, I shot back. I can feel his human side fading with each passing hour. Clever girl, Theron murmured from where he watched near the gates. She already understands more than you do, brother. The Shadow Wolf circled us slowly, examining the invisible bonds between Kaelin and Riven. The binding is complex, 3 layers, flesh, spirit, and crown. Break one wrong and both die. Break them in the wrong order and worse things happen. What could be worse than death? I asked. Existence as a mindless beast for eternity, hunting all you once loved. His eyes fixed on mine. Or would you prefer your wolf prince as a conscience trapped forever in a body he cannot control? Through our connection, I felt Riven's terror at both possibilities. There is another way, Morwen said carefully. The transference. Everyone went still. Even the walking trees seemed to hold their breath. You know what that requires, the Shadow Wolf said. I do. Morwen turned to me. A speaker can transfer a binding from one vessel to another. You could take the crown bond from Kaelin, free Riven completely. Making herself the Wolf Queen, Theron added with dark delight, bound to protect the Northern Throne forever. Or the Shadow Wolf said slowly. She could transfer all 3 bonds to herself temporarily, hold them while we reshape them into something new, something that doesn't destroy the host. The last speaker who tried that exploded, Kaylin said flatly. Literally. They found pieces of her across 3 kingdoms. She wasn't bound to the wolf first, the Shadow Wolf countered. This one already shares Riven's essence. She might survive. Might. The word hung in the air like a blade. I'll do it, I said. Lyrian, no. Kaelin started forward, but Fenris blocked him with a snarl. It's not your choice, I told the king. It never was. The Shadow Wolf smiled, revealing teeth that belonged in nightmares. Then we begin. But first, a truth you should know. Speakers aren't random. The Force follows bloodlines. Yes, but it only awakens when its counterpart appears. Counterpart? Every speaker has a bonded guardian, usually a wolf, but not always. One they're destined to either save or destroy. His gaze moved to Riven. Guess which one you found? My heart stopped. Destined? Why do you think he recognized you instantly? Why do you think you heard his call when no one else could? You've been connected since before birth, waiting for this moment. That's beyond reason. I'm from the eastern villages. Riven is northern royalty. Your mother fled north when you were 3, Theron interrupted smoothly. After your father discovered what you were. She died at the border, but you disappeared. Until a healer found a half-frozen child with no memory and a peculiar birthmark. The world tilted. Memories I'd buried surfaced. Fragments of a woman singing, running through snow, warmth fading as she pressed me into a hollow tree, whispering, "Hide, my little wolf speaker. Hide until he finds you." She knew, I whispered. My mother knew what I was. She knew what you'd become, the Shadow Wolf corrected. Now choose. Take the bonds and risk everything, or let Riven fade into the wolf forever. I looked at Fenris, at Riven, and saw human eyes looking back from the wolf's face, pleading, not for freedom, but for me to save myself. Run, his voice begged in my mind. Please. Instead, I knelt beside him, placing my marked wrist against his neck. Together, or not at all. Strength erupted from the point of contact, not violent, but inevitable, like sunrise or tide. I felt the bond snap from Kaelin, shooting through the air like visible chains of light, wrapping around my wrists, my throat, my heart. The pain was exquisite. Every nerve screamed as foreign magic invaded my body. The crown bond was cold authority, demanding obedience. The flesh bond was wild hunger, animal instinct. The spirit bond was the worst. Riven's essence flooding into me, his memories, his pain, his love. Love? Through the agony, I felt it clearly, not new, but timeless. Recognition of souls that had been searching for each other across lifetimes. Hold on, the Shadow Wolf commanded, his form becoming fully solid for the first time. The reshaping begins now. But something was wrong. A 4th presence had entered the binding, something that had been hiding in Theron's shadow, waiting. Did you really think, Theron laughed, that I'd come here without insurance? The thing that emerged from his shadow wasn't human, wasn't animal, wasn't anything that belonged in the waking world. It was hunger given form, corruption made manifest, a void walker, the natural enemy of speakers, and it was reaching for me with tentacles made of living darkness, drawn by the force I'd just absorbed. No! Riven's form exploded with light, transforming mid-leap, but not into a man. What landed between me and the Void Walker was something else entirely. Half wolf, half human, all predator. The perfect fusion of both forms, beyond comprehension yet magnificent. The shadow wolf smiled. Interesting. She's already changing him. But I couldn't appreciate the transformation. The bonds were burning me from inside out, and the Voidwalker's presence was poison to a speaker's essence. Darkness crept into my vision as I heard Kaelin shout, "Riven roar!" and somewhere in the distance, a horn sounding. The Eastern Army had arrived. I woke to find myself suspended between worlds, not unconscious, not awake, but somewhere else. A realm of silver mist and whispered memories. The bonds I'd absorbed pulsed through me like secondary heartbeats, each one pulling in different directions. Lyrian. Riven's voice, but not in my head. He stood before me in this strange space, neither wolf nor man, but pure essence. Beautiful and terrible and completely, utterly himself. Where are we? Inside the binding, inside you. He moved closer, and I could see through him to something beyond, threads of light connecting to countless points. You're holding all three bonds while they reshape. Your mind created this space to protect itself. How long? Time moves differently here. Moments or hours, I'm not sure. His translucent hand reached for my face but couldn't quite touch. You shouldn't have done this. You would have disappeared forever. Better that than... He stopped, his form flickering. They're fighting. In the real world. Can you feel it? I concentrated, and suddenly I could perceive the physical realm like looking through water. The courtyard had become a battlefield. Kaelin wielded ice and shadow against the Voidwalker while the Shadow Wolf held back the eastern forces at the gates. And Riven, his physical form, fought with savage grace in that unthinkable hybrid shape, protecting my unconscious body. He's magnificent, I breathed, watching the Wolfman tear through enemies. That's not me, Riven said quietly. That's what you're making me. The bonds are changing, responding to your strength, your will. I'm becoming what you need. I need you free. You need a guardian. The speaker's essence requires it. He gestured to the threads around us. Look closer. I saw it then. My own essence interweaving with his, not binding but joining. The crown bond was dissolving, its authority transferring not to me, but dissipating entirely. The flesh bond was strengthening, but changing from chain to bridge, and the spirit bond. We're merging, I gasped. Only if you allow it. You can still sever the connections, free us both. What would happen to you? His smile was sad. I'd be human again. Powerless, mortal, but free. And you want that? I want. He paused, form solidifying slightly with emotion. I want what I've wanted since the moment I saw you through Fenris's eyes. But that's not important. It's the only thing that's important. The mist around us swirled faster. Through our connection, I felt the battle intensifying. Theron had brought creatures of shadow, beings that shouldn't exist in daylight. The Voidwalker grew stronger with each fallen soldier, feeding on death. Choose quickly, Riven urged. The longer you hold all three bonds unresolved, the more unstable they become. I reached out, my fingers actually meeting his for the first time in the space. Solid, real. The moment we touched, memories flooded between us. His childhood, my hidden years, the moment he first transformed, the night I healed my first dying patient. You were there, I realized. 3 years ago, when I was lost in the Thornwood, the wolf that led me home. I couldn't let you die. His hand tightened on mine. Even cursed, even mindless, some part of me knew you were important. Through our joined hands, I felt the shui, truth of the bonds. They weren't just magical chains. They were potential. Raw, unformed possibility waiting to be shaped. Together, I said. We reshape them together. That's not how it works. It is now. I pulled him closer, our forms blending at the edges. I'm a speaker. You're the Shadow Wolf's descendant. Between us, we have enough strength to rewrite the rules. The silver mist turned gold. The bond stopped pulling in different directions and began to spiral together, forming something new. Not a chain, but a choice. Not a curse, but a gift. Energy flooded through us, through me, unlike anything in the histories. We were remaking not just the binding, but the very nature of what it meant to be speaker and guardian. Unthinkable! The Shadow Wolf's voice echoed through the space. They're creating a soul bond. Stop them! Theron's panicked shout. If they complete it? But it was too late. The moment our essences fully merged, the world exploded with light. I gasped back to consciousness in the physical realm to find myself standing, force radiating from every pore. Riven stood beside me, still in his hybrid form but different, more controlled, more himself. Our hands were clasped, and where we touched, light pulsed. The Voidwalker screamed, a sound that shattered windows. Creatures of pure darkness couldn't stand against what we'd become. Living light, bonded souls, the perfect fusion of speaker and guardian magic. Together? Riven asked, his voice rough but human despite his form. Together. We moved as one, essence flowing between us like breath. I spoke words in the old tongue I'd never learned, and he shaped them into reality with claw and fang. The Voidwalker tried to flee, but we were everywhere. Light in its darkness, order in its chaos. With a final shriek, it dissolved into nothingness. The eastern forces faltered. Without Theron's shadow creatures, they were just soldiers facing the Shadow Wolf's fury and a newly bonded pair whose strength defied comprehension. "Retreat!" someone screamed, and they fled, leaving Theron standing alone in the courtyard. "This isn't over," he snarled. The old laws are dead," the Shadow Wolf interrupted, solidifying fully beside us. "They've created something new, a bond of choice, not force. The first true partnership between speaker and wolf in 1,000 years." Theron's face twisted with rage. "The Eastern Kingdoms will never accept. The Eastern Kingdoms will accept it," Morwen said, appearing with a scroll that glowed with binding magic. "Or face the combined might of the North, the Shadow Realm, and the first soul-bonded pair in living memory." But I wasn't listening anymore. The bond's creation had taken everything I had. The world spun, my knees buckled. Riven caught me, his form shifting smoothly back to human as he lifted me. For the first time, I saw his true face clearly. Sharp cheekbones, storm-gray eyes with gold flecks, midnight hair that fell past his shoulders, beautiful in a wild way that matched his wolf. "I've got you," he murmured. And through our new bond, I felt the truth of it. Not possession, but partnership. Not ownership, but choice. "The bond," Kaelin said quietly, approaching slowly. "Is it complete?" Riven answered, not looking away from me. "We're bound by choice, not magic. She can release me any time." "But you won't," the Shadow Wolf said. It wasn't a question. I managed to shake my head. "Never." Then it settled. The primeval being turned to Theron. "Leave. Now. And if you ever threaten her again, you'll face not just the North, but every wolf in every realm. The speaker has returned, and we protect our own." Theron fled without another word, though something in his retreat suggested calculation rather than defeat. As the adrenaline faded, I became aware of an awkward truth. Riven was very naked, having shredded his clothes during transformation. Perhaps, Morwen said with amusement, we should continue this inside, with clothing. But before anyone could move, another horn sounded. Not eastern, not northern, but from the thornwood itself. The trees that had walked with the shadow wolf suddenly bowed, every branch bending toward me. What? They recognize you, the shadow wolf said, something like pride in his primordial voice. The speaker has awakened fully. The forest acknowledges its new guardian. Through my bond with Riven, I felt his mixture of awe and concern. We'd changed everything. The nature of bonds, the balance of power, the very fabric of magic itself. And somehow I knew this was only the beginning. 3 days had passed since the soul bond's creation, and I still couldn't control the side effects. Every emotion I felt rippled through the palace like physical force. My laughter made flowers bloom in winter, my frustration cracked windows, and my dreams. My dreams brought primeval things crawling from the thornwood to peer at the speaker with curious eyes. Focus, Morwen instructed, placing another crystal before me. Channel the excess energy into the stone. I tried, but the moment I touched the crystal, it exploded in a shower of rainbow fragments, the 20th one today. Perhaps we need a different approach, Riven said from the doorway. He'd taken to wearing simple black clothing that somehow made him look more dangerous than his hybrid form. Through our bond, I felt his constant concern, his frustration that he couldn't help me. The force isn't meant to be contained, I said, standing abruptly. It feels wrong, like trying to breathe underwater. Speakers of the past, Morwen began. Didn't have soul bonds, I interrupted. We've created something unprecedented, and we're trying to control it with old methods. A knock interrupted us. Kalen entered, his expression grave. We have a problem. Through the windows I saw them. Ravens, hundreds of them, circling the palace. But these weren't ordinary birds. Their eyes glowed sickly green, and where their shadows fell, plants withered. Plague birds, Morwen whispered. But they've been extinct for 300 years, Kalen confirmed, since the last speaker died. Understanding hit me like ice water. They're drawn to my essence. Not drawn, a new voice said. We all spun to find a figure materializing from the shadows, a woman in robes that seemed to absorb light, her face hidden beneath a deep hood. Summoned by those who would see the speaker's strength corrupted or destroyed. Who are you? Riven demanded, moving protectively between us. The woman lowered her hood, revealing features that made me gasp. She looked exactly like the portrait in the healer's hall, the last speaker, dead 3 centuries past. I am Seraphina, she said, or rather, what remains of her. An echo preserved in the spaces between life and death, waiting for my successor to awaken. Her ghostly eyes fixed on me. We need to talk about what you've truly unleashed. Before anyone could respond, she waved her translucent hand. The world around us froze. Kalen mid-word, Morwen reaching for a weapon, even dust motes suspended in the air. Only Riven and I remained unfrozen, protected by our bond. The soul bond, Seraphina continued, is not just unprecedented, it's apocalyptic. You've torn a hole in the fabric between realms. Every moment it exists, that tear widens. You're lying, Riven snarled, but I felt his uncertainty through our connection. Am I? She gestured to the windows. Look closer at those birds. I looked, and with my awakened sight I saw the truth. The ravens weren't just corrupted, they were wrong. Pieces of different realms stitched together into living impossibilities. The barriers between worlds are breaking down. Seraphina said. Your bond is too powerful for reality to contain. It will either reshape the world or destroy it. There must be a way to stabilize it, I insisted. There is. Her expression was sorrowful. One of you must die. No. Riven and I said it simultaneously. Then both worlds will collapse. The human realm and the shadow realm will collide, creating chaos that... She stopped, her form flickering. He's coming. Who? The one who killed me. The collector. He feeds on speaker energy, and you've just become the most powerful source in existence. The frozen world shattered back into motion. Seraphina's echo vanished, but her warning lingered. Immediate evacuation. Kaelin was finishing. The plague birds are just the beginning. As if summoned by his words, the temperature plummeted. Ice formed on the windows in patterns that spelled words in the old tongue. Give her to me. He's here, I breathed. The palace shook. Stones that had stood for centuries cracked. Through our bond, I felt Riven's wolf rising, ready to fight. But then came the voice. Not heard, but felt, vibrating through bones and souls. Little speaker, you've made yourself so bright, so easy to find. A figure walked through the palace wall as if it were mist. Tall, gaunt, wrapped in chains made of captured souls. The collector. Where his feet touched, the floor aged centuries in seconds. 300 years I waited, he said, voice like grinding stone. 300 years since I drained the last one. He raised his hand, and I felt it. A pull on my very essence, trying to tear the energy from my body. But the soul bond reacted violently. Instead of my strength being drained, it exploded outward. Riven transformed instantly, not into wolf or hybrid, but something new, a creature of pure force and fury. Our combined essence created a barrier the collector couldn't penetrate. Interesting, he mused. You've bound yourself to a guardian. How quaint. He pulled something from his robes, a crystal containing swirling darkness. Do you know what this is? The essence of the last speaker. Your predecessor. She thought love would protect her too. The crystal pulsed, and Seraphina's echo reappeared. But wrong. Twisted, corrupted, screaming silently. I kept her soul, the collector said conversationally. Speakers are so rare, you see. I like to savor them. Rage flooded through me, not just mine, but Riven's, amplified through our bond. The palace windows exploded outward. The thornwood responded to my fury, roots bursting through the floor, reaching for the collector with thorn tendrils. But he laughed. Yes. Show me that strength. Feed me your anger. Too late, I realized my mistake. He was feeding on my emotional output, growing stronger with each burst of energy. Lyrian, stop! Morwen shouted. You're giving him what he wants. But I couldn't stop. The bond was a feedback loop, my anger feeding Riven's wolf, his fury feeding mine. We were going to destroy everything. Then Kaelin did something unexpected. He drove his sword into the ground and spoke words I'd never heard. Not the old tongue, but something older. Primordial. The shadows in the room responded, but not to attack. They wrapped around Riven and me like a cooling blanket, dampening our rage. Shadow magic! The collector hissed. You dare use my own element against me? I learned from the best, Kaelin said coldly. From you, when you were my teacher. The revelation stunned everyone. Oh, didn't I mention? The collector said with mock surprise. Young Kaelin here was my apprentice. How do you think he gained the knowledge to bind his own brother? I taught him everything. To stop you, Kaelin snarled. I learned your weaknesses. Did you? The collector moved faster than sight, suddenly holding Kaelin by the throat. Or did I let you think you did? Let him go, I screamed, force building again. Make me, little speaker. Show me the true extent of your bond. Unleash it all. I started to, but Riven's voice in my mind stopped me. Wait. Look. I saw it then. Kalen's hand, hidden from the collector's view, making deliberate signals. A plan. Trust him, Riven said, through our bond. Be ready. Kalen's eyes met mine, and he mouthed a single word. Now. He grabbed the crystal containing Seraphina's soul and shattered it against the collector's chest. The released essence exploded outward, 300 years of captured speaker strength suddenly free. But instead of dissipating, it flew toward me, recognizing its successor. No, the collector screamed, but it was too late. Seraphina's energy merged with mine, not corrupting but completing something. The knowledge of centuries flooded through me. Every speaker who had lived, loved, and died, their combined wisdom and force, and with it came understanding. You're not just a collector, I said, energy making my voice echo across realms. You're a failed speaker, one who corrupted his own essence trying to live forever. The collector's face contorted with rage. I am eternal. You're nothing, I said, and with the combined strength of every speaker who had ever lived, I reached into his chest and pulled out his corrupted core, a withered thing that might once have been a soul. He crumbled to ash, centuries catching up in seconds. But as he died, he laughed. You think you've won? The tear between worlds remains. The soul bond still threatens everything. You've only delayed the inevitable. His ashes scattered, but his words lingered. I collapsed, overwhelmed by the inherited energy. Riven caught me, returning to human form. The tear, I gasped. He was right. I can feel it growing. Through the destroyed windows we could see it, a crack in the sky itself, spreading like a wound, revealing glimpses of the shadow realm beyond. We'd won the battle, but might have doomed the world. The tear in reality widened with each passing hour. Through it, nightmares seeped into our world, creatures of shadow and hunger that shouldn't exist under any sun. The palace had been evacuated, leaving only essential defenders and those of us trying to find a solution. There has to be another way, I insisted, poring over primordial texts in the Shadow Wolf's personal archives, volumes that materialized from smoke when he'd learned of our crisis. Every source says the same thing, Morwen replied exhaustedly. A soul bond can only be severed by death or... She paused, reading further. Or what? Riven demanded. He hadn't left my side since the collector's defeat, our bond humming with shared anxiety. Or transformation so complete that the original souls no longer exist. She looked up. It's called the Phoenix Rite. Both participants essentially die and are reborn as something else entirely. That's still death, Kalen said from where he monitored the tear's growth through a scrying mirror. No. The Shadow Wolf materialized beside us, his primeval form more solid than I'd ever seen it. It's evolution, but the risk... Tell us, I said. You would enter the tear itself, go to the place between worlds where reality is fluid. There, you could reshape not just your bond, but the very nature of what speakers and guardians are. Close the tear from within by becoming something that bridges both realms naturally. But? Riven asked, knowing there was always a cost. But most who enter that space never return. Reality without rules tends to dissolve consciousness. You could forget who you are, what you're trying to do. Become lost in infinite possibility. Through our bond, I felt Riven's immediate decision. He would risk anything to save the world, to save me. but I also felt his deeper fear. Losing himself meant losing us. "There's something else," I said, pieces clicking together in my mind. "The collector said speakers are rare, but he didn't say why. What happened to them all?" The Shadow Wolf's expression darkened. "They evolved. Successful phoenix rites throughout history. Each pair that survived became something beyond mortal understanding, guardians of reality itself. But the process—" A scream interrupted him. Through the windows, we saw the tear had doubled in size. Shadow creatures poured through in waves, held back only by Kalen's ice barriers and the palace guards' desperate fighting. "We're out of time," I said, standing. "We do it now." "Wait," a familiar voice called. Theron strode in, but not as the enemy we knew. His arrogant bearing was gone, replaced by desperate urgency. "Before you potentially destroy yourselves, you should know the truth." "We don't have time for your games," Kalen snarled. "Not a game, a confession." Theron pulled out a timeless amulet, its center a fragment of crystallized starlight. "This belonged to the first speaker, your ancestral grandmother, Lyrian, and mine." Everyone froze. "We're related?" I breathed. "Cousins, many times removed. The speaker bloodline split centuries ago. One branch fled east, one west. I've known since I first saw your birthmark." He held out the amulet. "This is why I wanted to claim you, not for power, but for protection." The collector wasn't the only thing hunting speakers. "Then why?" "Because I'm a fool who thought control meant safety." His laugh was bitter. "But watching you create something unthinkable, something beautiful and terrifying, I realized control is the opposite of what speakers need." The amulet pulsed with warm light when I touched it. Immediately, I felt it. An anchor, a guide that could help us navigate the space between worlds. "It won't guarantee success," Theron warned, "but it might help you remember who you are in there." Another section of sky cracked. The tear was spreading exponentially. "Thank you," I said simply, and saw surprise flicker across his face. Riven took my hand. "Ready? Together? Always." We walked to the palace's highest tower, where the tear loomed directly above. The Shadow Wolf, Morwen, Kalen, and even Theron followed. "If we don't return," I began. "You will," Kalen said firmly. "You have to." The Shadow Wolf stepped forward, touching both our foreheads with his. Ethereal pause. "Remember, in that space, will and memory are the only real things. Hold tight to who you are, why you're there, and whatever you see, whatever tempts you, don't let go of each other." We nodded, and without further hesitation, Riven transformed into his hybrid form. I climbed onto his back, feeling our bond flare with shared purpose. With a powerful leap, we dove directly into the tear. Reality shattered. We tumbled through nothingness that was simultaneously everything, colors that didn't exist, sounds that were also textures, time flowing backward and forward simultaneously. I saw infinite versions of ourselves, realities where we never met, where we were enemies, where we were already dead. The temptation to explore these possibilities was overwhelming. "Focus," Riven's voice anchored me. "Remember why we're here." The amulet burned against my chest, its light creating a small sphere of stability around us. In this formless space, I could see the truth of our bond, not a chain or bridge, but a living thing, pulsing with its own heartbeat. And I could see the problem. Our bond was too dense, too powerful for a single reality to contain. It needed to exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously. "We need to spread ourselves thinner," I said, understanding flooding through me. Not break the bond, but stretch it across realities. Becoming guardians of the boundary itself, Riven realized. Neither fully human nor wolf, neither fully in one world nor another. It would mean sacrifice, never fully belonging anywhere, always existing partially in multiple realities. But it would also mean protecting all worlds, maintaining the balance the tear had disrupted. Choose, the space whispered in Seraphina's voice, in the collector's voice, in voices of speakers long past. Evolve or dissolve. I felt Riven's consciousness merge completely with mine. In this space, we didn't need separate bodies or identities. We were one being with two aspects, perfect unity. Together, we reached for the edges of the tear, not to close it, but to become it. To transform into living bridges between realms. The pain was indescribable. Every atom of our beings was pulled apart and rewoven. I felt myself dying and being born simultaneously. The temptation to let go, to simply dissolve into peaceful nothingness, was overwhelming. But then I heard them. Voices from the mortal realm, Kaelin shouting orders, Morwen chanting protective spells, the shadow wolf howling. Theron, surprisingly, praying to ancestors for our return. They were fighting for us, believing in us. And deeper, through layers of reality, I heard more voices. Every person we'd ever helped, every life touched by the speaker's essence, they needed us. Together, Riven and I thought as one. We pulled ourselves back together, but not as we were. We reformed as something new. Still Lyrian and Riven, but also more. Guardians of the boundary, existing simultaneously in multiple realities. Our bond not containing force but distributing it safely across dimensions. The tear didn't close, it transformed, becoming a controlled gateway, a necessary valve preventing reality from building pressure until it exploded. And we were its eternal guardians. When we emerged back into the mortal realm, everything had changed. I could see all dimensions simultaneously, feel every realm's heartbeat. Riven stood beside me, both wolf and man simultaneously, existing in multiple forms at once. You did it, the shadow wolf said, and for the first time I heard awe in his primordial voice. You've become what speakers were always meant to be. But I barely heard him. Through my expanded consciousness, I could feel it. Other tears forming across the world, other places where reality grew thin. Our work had just begun. 6 months later, I stood at the boundary between worlds, watching sunrise paint the sky in colors that existed in 3 dimensions simultaneously. This particular tier, now stabilized into a gateway, overlooked a valley where the Thornwood met the eastern plains. It had become a pilgrimage site, where beings from multiple realms came to witness the unthinkable made real. You're brooding again, Riven said, materializing beside me in his preferred form, mostly human but with wolf eyes and slightly pointed ears, marks of his perpetual existence between shapes. Observing, I corrected, leaning into his warmth. There's a difference. Through our evolved bond, I felt his amusement. We didn't need words anymore, but we used them anyway, holding on to the human habit like a cherished memory. The council wants an answer, he said gently. I sighed. The High Council of Realms, a new governing body formed after our transformation, had requested we train others. Apparently, our success had awakened dormant speaker bloodlines across the world. Young people were manifesting abilities, bonding with guardian creatures, creating smaller tiers they couldn't control. We can't teach what we've become, I said. It wasn't just skill or knowledge. It was choice, love, desperation. A perfect storm of circumstances. He took my hand, and where we touched, reality shimmered. But we can teach them to find their own way. Through the gateway, I watched Kalen approaching from the mortal side. He'd changed too. The shadow magic no longer corrupted but refined, making him the perfect king for this new age where realms intersected. Beside him walked Theron, the brothers having reconciled during the crisis. Their combined kingdoms had become the first truly integrated realm, where humans and shadow beings coexisted. "The new speakers have arrived," Kalen called up. 3 pairs, all bonded within the last month. I saw them through multiple dimensional layers, so young, so frightened, so powerful. One pair was classic, human, and wolf like us. Another was human and raven, their bond creating small storms wherever they walked. The third was most unusual. 2 humans whose speaker energies had bonded to each other, creating a loop that bent reality around them. "Bring them up," I said. As they climbed the crystalline stairs I'd formed from compressed reality, I remembered my first moments with Fenris, riven in that courtyard. How unthinkable it had all seemed, how terrified I'd been. "What do we tell them?" Riven asked softly. I thought of Seraphina's echo, the collector's corruption, the shadow wolf's timeless wisdom, of all the speakers before us who had tried and failed or succeeded and vanished into legend. The truth, I decided, that the strength isn't a gift or curse but a choice, that bonds aren't chains but bridges, that sometimes saving the world means becoming something beyond it. The first pair reached us, a girl no older than 16 and her bonded wolf, both trembling with barely controlled force. "Lady Lyrian," she whispered. "Lord Riven, we're honored." "Just Lyrian," I interrupted gently, "and this is Riven. We're not lords or ladies anymore. We're—" I paused, looking at my bonded, my partner, my other half who existed across infinite realities with me. "We're guides," he finished, "and we're going to teach you not to become us, but to become something entirely your own." The girl's eyes widened with hope. In the distance, another tier was forming. I felt it like a whisper across dimensions. Not a wound, but a doorway, waiting for its guardians to arrive. "Come," I said, gesturing to all 3 pairs. "Let's begin." As we walked toward the new tear, I heard the shadow wolf's howl echoing across realms, approval, pride, and promise. The age of isolated speakers was over. The time of connected guardians, bridging all realities, had begun. And somewhere in the space between heartbeats, between dimensions, between wolf and woman, I smiled. We had become unthinkable, Riven and I, and now we would teach others to do the same. The story ended where it began, with a choice to help, to reach out despite fear, to speak when silence would be safer. But this time, we weren't alone. We never would be again.